Hey guys, welcome back to the Pine Box Perspective. So I did something that I said I probably wasn't going to do. I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it, and that was I bought another nesting item, I guess you could say, a set. So I thought I would try the Pathfinder, Dave Canterbury's canteen cook set, and it comes with the lid. So I kind of want to give you my impressions on that. We're going to use it here in just a little bit. So the reason that I did this, what I did was I bought a small cup about a little bit bigger than one of these GSI Glacier cups. It was a Toaks brand. It was a titanium, so titanium is a little bit more affordable than it used to be, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Nice little cook pot. It was a 750 milliliter, and it had the bell handle on it. I've been kind of wanting something with a bell handle on it because I like to use Dutch ovens and things, But then I started thinking, for a cup that size, you really don't. I'm not going to use a bell. You can. I'm not going to do that. But for something bigger, so I'm going to hold out for probably get another one of Dave's like larger pots for that kind of thing, like a bush pot. So what I like to do is in my go bag, my get home bag, or my backpacking setup, or just like a day hike, or just kind of tea in the woods kind of thing like we're going to do today again. I like to have something small and condensed. So that's why I went with this. So you get your bottle, you got your pot, and you got your stove stand. The stove stand is the main reason that I ordered the set, because everything just kind of goes together. I know I said in my last video, the Mullen Tea video, that we don't have to get too crazy. Everything's nesting or whatever, but this is the most comprehensive set that I've seen so far. Now, I do like the military canteen style, but this works better for me, okay, because if I want to put all this stuff in the pack, put this in an external water bottle holder on a backpack, I can do that and have everything else in the pack. I don't have to have it, all on the outside or whatever. But if I do want to put it all on the inside, it's all stowed away, doesn't take a whole lot of room, inside the pack. I can put other things beside of it. I use a clamshell style pack most of the time. But anyway, let's talk about this real quick. What I thought that I was going to think the bottle was okay, the pot was going to be okay, and I was really going to like the stove stand. The stove stand is really what made me want it, because I didn't feel like making my own, okay? What happened actually was I really like this bottle, and let me tell you why. It's a little bit shorter than your standard like Nalgene or your clean canteen. Okay, this is 32 fluid ounces up to the neck here, the cap. Okay, it's so you don't have all this extra on top, okay? The cap, I saw a video where somebody was like, I don't really like the cap, it looks kind of cheap. It's a different finish on the plastic. It looks like it's really well built to me. It kind of reminds me of, maybe some kind of plastic from the 80s or whatever, but maybe a little bit better. Okay, and it does have the silicone ring in there. And I know, guys, a lot of you, this is not new to you. You've seen this around, okay? But I've been thinking about it. I thought I'd try it. So really like the bottle. It feels to be a little bit sturdier, like you can squeeze on it. Now a clean canteen will kind of give a little bit. This will very slightly, so it's a little bit more robust. I know a lot of people like the Nalgene bottles, the stainless steel, and I've been wanting to try one of those, but for the price of that bottle, I got this entire set. So, and I don't see anything wrong with this. I really like this. So I've got a way to boil water and let it cool off and put the cap on it and go. I don't have to pour it into something else like a plastic bottle, Now, of course, it slides down into the pot. There is a little bit of room here, okay? I don't like things that clank. This is not that bad. It could be a little bit tighter. Who cares, Let's move on to the pot. This is a nice pot. I really like this pot. I like the bat wing style handles on it, okay? They're big enough for a glove, just like Dave says, okay? You get a good grip on this, and these are not sloppy. They're in there pretty daggum tight. I'd probably throw a thumb up here anyway. Now, the one thing about having a bail on a cup this size, yeah, you could use it. You could do some things with it. Who cares if you got to put your thumb on it when you drink out of it? That doesn't bother me. But even if this is full of liquid or food or whatever, and you're swinging this over a fire, it's not got enough weight on it for you to just pull the lid off and stir it while it's over the fire. You'd probably want to take it off and do that and then put it back on. Now a Dutch oven, cast iron Dutch oven, I've got I think mine's an 8-quart, it's a larger one, 6 is standard. Those, you can stir those while they're swinging, they're not going to move a whole lot, you know what I mean? So, and plus, if you want everything nesting, your bail handle is going to kind of get in the way. depending on what you have it in. Now, if you put it in, you know, one of these, it's not going to be a big deal. All this stuff's not going to fit down in my external bottle holder on my backpack. So that's why I decided to send the other one back. It seemed like a really good product, Tokes. One thing that I was looking at that they had was their little collapsible stove system. Okay, so see, I like how simple this is. I can set it down, I can build a fire under it, and be done. They had a pretty cool little system. The problem with that was it's going to look something like this. So you would have the bottom of it and then the top of it, and there's an insert in there because it's a gasification stove, and then you would have this, but it's going to be much taller. It's going to be like that, standing up. Now, I told you guys before, everything out here is on a hill. Okay, I'm trying to remedy that with this setup here. So it'll be really top heavy. If you had a good wind, it's going to blow your soup or your tea or whatever you got onto the ground. It was a really cool design. I really wanted it, and I was trying to figure out how to make it work so that I could have it, and I just come to the realization that it just wasn't going to be for me. Okay, I don't want to have to dig a hole to put something down in. So but anyway, this pot is pretty tough. Okay, now this is my glacier cup, and they're about the same, you know, as far as like giving and things like that. We're not going to be stepping on them, so it doesn't matter. But the lid fits on this thing. Some people kind of like a looser lid. I don't, because I mean, I can set it, just kind of set it on there and hold this up, and I can put a stick through it or a glove or whatever. Now, one thing I do have to say about this is this does not stand up. The Tokes had a way that you could slide this over and it will be in an upward locking position. Okay, I really like that. I thought that was cool. I would like to see that on this pot. But you know, I can work around it. We've got gloves, we've got sticks, we've got whatever pads of leather we can use if something's hot. It does go on tight, and I kind of like that. I don't know, it just feels right. I don't want like a loose sloppy pot. Now this has the ports in it, you know, so you can make some teas or strain some noodles or whatever in there. Really impressed with this pot. I like it a lot. I love the handles on it. I love how big they are. I like how tight they are. It just feels really good. Now, again, putting this stuff together, let me stand back a little bit. There's a little bit of movement in this too. Not too clanky. It's not that bad. It's not like my old Coleman Max set, which is like my first backpacking pot set. It was like two pots and like two kind of saucepan cup kind of looking things. Used it for years. It works, but it goes in a mesh bag, and it kind of clanks around in there a little bit. I'd always put bandanas in it to kind of try and stop that, but not really worried about any of that with this. Okay, now there's only two things about this entire set that I kind of wish was a little bit better. I just mentioned the little lifting tab here. Could be in a locking position upward. This stove stand, which I thought was going to be the answer to all my problems, and it may be, it's really flimsy. I mean, super flexible, flimsy, and I wish it was something just a little bit tougher. If it were made like the pot, I think that would have worked out, you know, been a little bit better. Okay, but I'm sure it's going to work fine. Like I said, I'm not going to be parking a Fiat on it or anything like that. I don't have a Fiat, but anyway, so my idea with this is much like the Tokes cook stove or little gasification stove, you got to do things to it. I've been considering getting a twig stove, and I still might. I'd like to have one, just something that kind of stands up, a little more stationary. You can put a frying pan on and things like that. I like this because it's simple. It's just one thing I can set down, I can build a fire under it, or I can set this in a fire, or I can put it over some rocks or some logs and have the fire in a little trough there. I'm going to try something different today that I think will work out for me, since I'm always on a hill. But I wish that this were just a little more robust, okay? But I do like the design of it. I like how simple it is. So we're going to give that a shot, all right? So let me get set up here, and we're going to make some tea. We're going to go find what we're going to make the tea out of, and then we're going to make some tea. All right, guys, so what I'm looking for today, I just found it, is spice bush. Okay, this grows in the southeast, and it has a lot of medicinal properties people claim and things like that, but it's also supposed to be a pretty good tea. Now, it has these little berries on it here, okay, and you find these around now, which is this is beginning of October. So, you know, late fall, things like that. And you knock the pit out of it, and it just, I'm trying to open that up. Okay. It doesn't really have much of a taste, but it has an aroma to it. So you can use the younger twigs off the very end here and the leaves to make a tea. I'm just going to be using the twigs today. That's really all I need. You can actually use the bark too. Now they say that I've never done this, so I'm trying something new today with you guys. The bigger ones, once they get about the size of your pinky or so, it'll have like a more bitter taste, and you might like that. I've always been a bigger fan of like the way IPAs taste, like the bitter taste, you know. But we're going to try this today and see how it goes. So we're just going to, and one way to find out too is you can scratch the bark with your thumbnail and smell it, and it has like sort of a minty kind of a smell to it, maybe a little bit spicier, and the taste is supposed to be similar to that. So I'm going to gather some of these leaves and some of these smaller twigs, and we're going to take them over there and make a tea out of it. And we're going to use our new cook set. I guess I should probably show you what the actual plant looks like. That might be a good idea. So you know, nothing special about the bark. It's a smoother bark. Okay. This is what the leaf looks like. Sort of an oval, almost a reverse teardrop kind of thing. And on the back of it. Now, if you use the leaves, make sure there's no insect larvae on the back of it. You know, you want a clean plant. And it kind of grows like this right here. So it looks like a mess, I know, and some of these are dead, but it just branches out. I guess it's kind of like a shrub. It's supposed to be in the laurel family. So you see just a bunch of these. And guys, like I said, do your own research. Don't just watch a video, mine or anybody else's. I'm not an expert, but I do cross-reference everything with books. Of course, I watch YouTube videos, you know, everything else, but I always cross-reference everything with really good books. What's his name? Sam Thayer, something Thayer, has a really good book. I was looking at his this morning. I can't remember his first name. I think it's Samuel. But anyway, so I'm going to gather some of these. And you can eat these berries. They kind of look like dogwood berries or different things like that. There's a ton of red berries out in the woods. You know, you've got partridge berry. Sometimes they call it squaw vine. I've been wanting to try that one too. That's more of a what I call a woman's plant. We'll get into that in another video. But anyway, let me gather this up and we'll check out the tea and the cook set. Alright guys, so basically what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to pull the leaves off and I'm going to save them for later. I'm going to take them home to dry. Okay. I'll wash them off. And the berries too. And this little setup here. I'm glad I finally found a use for this thing. So a lot of times we'll carry like a little mesh type bag just to put things in. So that's what I'm gonna do with the leaves. Just kind of get those processed. Well, the sticks anyway. Alrighty. Now, I'm not gonna do a ton of tea. I'm just gonna make 1 cup, and that's all I really want. And they say that the spice bush, excuse me, is medicinal purposes. Like if you're getting or if you have a fever, it can kind of work the same way that alcohol does in medicine. Or if you've ever been sick and you take a couple shots of moonshine, help you sweat it out, sort of like NyQuil, things like that. But these berries, some people call it Carolina allspice, but you can use it, you can dry it out or you can use it fresh. I'd take the pits out of it though. Once the pits start to turn a color, they say that it kind of has that bitter taste too. You might like that. So that's up to you. And just make sure they're red. This one's black, so it's no good. We're just gonna pull all these off. Smells really good. Some of these are yellow. I'll get them out later. I just want fresh green leaves. just like the mullein tea video I did. I mean, you can make tea with fresh leaves, but just growing up and drinking tea, and you get a tea bag and it's got dried leaves in it, just kind of, I guess, makes me just want to do that same thing. I don't know. I've probably got enough. Now, one thing I did do was I got some, you know, the smaller ones obviously here, but I've got just a little bit bigger because I want to see that slightly more bitter taste. I think I'll like it, so I'm just going to do that. I don't need a ton here. And the little green buds that are on these and things like that, you can use those too. It's fine. You know, just keep it small enough to fit in your cup or your pot or whatever you're using. And the aroma off this plant itself is, you can smell it pretty good, pretty easily. So I'm not going to use a bunch just for an 8-ounce cup. Probably just going to use about that amount. So, you know, something like that. I think that'll be sufficient. So sort of like making a pine needle tea, I would imagine, you know, the pungency would be about the same. So I'm going to set that aside somewhere. Okay, and we'll save the rest of it, and I'll do that later. Okay. All right. So in this setup now, I have obviously the glacier cup on top of everything. One thing that I want to add to this though, guys, I don't know if you've seen these. I don't see a lot of videos on stuff like this here, but I got this from Walmart a long time ago when I started backpacking. It was $7 at the time. I don't know if it's Coughlin's or probably Ozark Trail, but this little folding shovel, little folding trowel. Guys, this thing is cheap, and you just kind of squeeze the handle like anything else. So you can do a lot with this little thing here. You can see how big it is for $7. They're probably, I don't know, 10 now at least. What I want to do with this is, so like I said, everything I do is on a hill. So for my stove, I'm going to level a spot out. Okay, to set the stove on, because that's not going to work with, you know, see. So I want to level this out, but I also want to dig a trough under it, about the size of the hole, the opening. Now you don't have to do this, it's just something I want to try. I think it would work a little bit better for me. Now my trough is going to be angled sort of upward, so the flame travels upward through this, up through the ground and everything, and just be a little bit easier. So just level this out. And the good thing about these little bottle cook sets, canteen cook sets, is you don't have to have a large fire. So if you're just doing something for the day or just making a lunch in the woods, you can have a small fire. And if you do this trough method, you can have your fire already in the ground, and you can cover it with the dirt, pour a little bit of water on it and cover it with the dirt that you've already dug up, kind of stomp it down, and you can leave. And it's not going to burn the woods down or anything like that. It's not making a large impact on the environment. So now if I were going to use this setup for, you know, regular camping, car camping, backpacking, I would set this probably on a couple of rocks in a fire, or what I've done before, honestly, I've just stuck my bottle or my cup in the fire, raked coals up against it, and it's been fine. You can do whatever you want to do. There's no right or wrong way to do things. Some ways may be better, but whatever works for you, whatever's easiest. There's a lot of roots in here. So, all right. So I've got a level spot. I just want to cut a little spot out for my tinder to go in. Ground's really wet. I'm sure everybody's ground is really wet right now. I guess I could take the time right now to kind of talk about, you know, the effects of the hurricane. I didn't really have anything that devastating happen to me. I know a lot of people have, and our thoughts and prayers go out to those people. You know, people in like Asheville and areas like that, they've lost everything, lost lives. It's really bad, guys. I'm sure you already know. And I lived in the Boone, Blowing Rock area, Deep Gap, Creston. That place got hammered too. I heard there was like, it was knee-high water in the Walmart in Boone, North Carolina. I mean, that's nuts. That's a place I lived in for a long time. Okay. Now the one good thing about this being so thin is it's sharp and you can just kind of nestle it in the dirt easily. But what I want to do is I want these flames going in here. I don't want it coming out the back. So I might just push a little dirt down there. Like this. And let's see if that sits level. And we'll scroll forward. See if that feels like. That's pretty good right there. So, all right. I'll take that. Clean this out a little bit. So, as far as the hurricane goes, we lost power, I think it was Friday morning around 9 o'clock and got it back Sunday around 10 at night. So, you know, it wasn't that big of a deal. My wife went and stayed with her grandparents. They had power across the other side of the county. One thing that helped me out a lot was, you know, I got the Primo water bottles that you put in a water cooler with the little hand pump that goes on top. I threw one of those in the kitchen. Guys, a turkey fryer. You can do anything with a turkey fryer. I found there's a house down the road. I got permission to get water out of a spigot that had county water to it because we have a well here. Well, the well pumps weren't working. So I filled that turkey fryer, that aluminum pot that comes with a turkey fryer up, and I was able to wash dishes and different things like that. I could cook a little bit of food just on the turkey fryer. That's just a couple of the things right there that are cheap and easy to have. And, you know, in a situation where you don't have power for a weekend, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, you can rough it and get through it. If you can go camping for a weekend, you can live like that for sure. So, just going to use some fat wooden matches today. Maybe I'll use a little bit of this inner bark, poplar bark. Why not? And so I had a video talking about whether or not you actually need a generator for, you know, a weekend or so without power. So I gotta tell you, I've got a deep freezer in the basement, and it's got about 2.5 to 3 pigs in it, and pork chops and loins and Boston butts and things like that, where I had my pigs slaughtered a while back. And so what I did was I just left the door closed on it and ate what was in the refrigerator in the pantry. And when the power came back on is when I checked it, and everything was still frozen solid. Now we had some muscadines and some grapes and things in there. Peppers, they started to thaw out. They were getting, strawberries were getting a little mushy, you know, so we lost some of that. Of course, the peppers, I'm not worried about. I could just refreeze them. So, but the meat itself, even the sausage packets that I had, were just still solid after that entire weekend. So, I do not regret one bit selling my generator. It would have been nice to save the stuff in the refrigerator, but when I sold and got my money back out of the generator, I did not lose nowhere near the money that I would have by keeping that generator and not even using it, you know. So now if you have, I'm not knocking generators, they're great. If you got a use for them, go for it. But I just felt like I just didn't need to do that really. So alrighty. That helicopter's flying over for a while now. imagine it's going to continue. So as far as this stove stand goes, I'm sure it's fine. I was considering taking one of these GSI cups and making one out of it. The only thing that I wouldn't be able to do is these top divots here. I wouldn't be able to do that probably without ruining it. But if you notice, there's an outer rim on this cup, and then it dents in. So I was going to drill some holes in here and use this as my raised up part and cut some slots in it and just cut the handles out for the little opening hole. I may do that. If I do, I'll do a video on it. I'm not really sure. Might need another match. Let's see. Okay, move some stuff around. Okay, so we can see there's a little bit of discoloration in the middle, obviously. It's kind of bowed in a little bit. Like I said, it's just something to take heat. So as long as it holds up, I really don't care. But I may make my own out of my old GSI cup just for the heck of it, just to do a video. On the new GSI cups, they actually have the graduations in them. The old ones do not, or at least the one that I had. So that's kind of cool. So I'll just use my old one to do that. So, in this setup, like I said, I've just got, the bottle and the stove and this with the lid, the pot with the lid. And I threw this GSI cup in there on top in case there's two of us out here. We want to make a soup or a tea or something. But we're going to see how this works. So what I was worried about was having something that would be just kind of hard to fiddle with, and that's why I was considering getting a twig stove, and I still might. I'd like to have one. If you guys have one or can recommend one, that would be awesome, because I don't know what I want. I can't decide what I want. I was looking at the Kuviks. I really like the bush pots. What is it? Bushcraft Essentials bush pots, but they're kind of expensive. So. Good way to lose an eyebrow. But this is not bad. I like this. So it just keeps my pot level. I've put things in the fire before and just kind of had to mess around with it. And so typically what I do when I'm camping is I'll build a keyhole fire. So basically the fire pit shaped like a keyhole. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know it was a name. It's something I've always done. But and I always leave that little space open so I can slide rocks over here and I could put a pot on it. Or, you could use some sticks or whatever. Or you can use nothing and just slide the coals up against it. But I kind of like this. It gives me a lot of options. I can do it by itself, I can do it with a fire, what have you. So I'm going to go ahead and put the pot on there. No sense in wasting this heat. I just want to show you guys how this was doing. And as far as you know, the heat getting out, seems to be doing a fine job. So let's see. So on this pot, it starts at 16 ounces. I'm just going to try and eyeball half of that because I just want 1 cup. Typically don't measure when I cook things. And I'm going to try to keep these handles off of the heat because, again, I don't have a glove. And we're going to use the lid. I didn't use the lid last time, so I didn't have one. So I'm just going to set that on there. I'm not going to push it in. I got a lot of respect for Dave Canterbury, his ideas, his innovation, and just his track record alone. Comes up with some really good ideas. As you can see, this stuff's so wet, like the fat wood is really not even helping it. But we'll get it. A lot of smoke in there still. And again, I'm not trying to boil water, I'm just trying to get it just almost boiling, like a good simmer. All right, so we'll wait on that and I'll get back with you in just a second. All right guys, so water is actually boiling. I walked off for a minute. I did figure out that I could just stick a stick through here on the lid and just leave it there, and I can lift the lid if I want to. But you know, we've got water boiling, so I'm gonna let that die down just a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and throw my twigs in there from the spice bush though. I'm sure it's not going to hurt a thing. That's probably enough. I can smell them. Pretty potent odor, or not odor, aroma. So we'll just throw those in there like so. And I'm going to let them sit in there for, since it's boiling, probably, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Some people let them slowly steep for 15. Not super picky on things like that. So, and we'll put our lid back on. And one good thing about this little stove thing is it's got the sidewalls that have no holes. There's the 3 ports in the back and the opening in the front. So I can have my handles right here and they're not going to get hot. So that's an upside to doing this as opposed to cooking over a fire with the coals and things. A lot of times when I did that, I would use the MSR pots with the locking lids and the handle flips over the top. It's got a longer handle. I could slide it in and out, you know. I don't have to do that with this, so. All right, guys, so in about 10 minutes, we'll give it a shot. All right, it's tea time. I'm gonna try. Well, I guess I don't have to because that lid fits on there so tight. Let's try it like this. See if it'll stay on. It's kind of hot. Just doing this to keep those twigs out of my cup. Okay, you can see there's not really no color to it. I mean, I can see a slight amber color to it. So we're going to let that cool off. I'm going to leave it here on the wet dirt. Hopefully the earth will draw some of that heat out of it, and we'll give it a taste and give our final thoughts on this setup and the tea. All right, guys, so final thoughts on the Pathfinder bottle cook set, I believe is what it's called. I will drop a link in the description if I need to. I guess everybody knows what these things are. But so the two concerns that I had was the flimsy stove stand. Well, it held up quite well, and I guess with it being so thin, it cools off pretty quick. So you can just flip it over with a stick, let it cool off, and then you're ready to pack up and go. Okay. One concern I had was, is it going to be kind of low to the ground and hard to fiddle with the fire? Well, starting a fire after a hurricane is going to be hard to do anyway. It took me a couple of matches and I had to blow on it quite a bit, but you know, you can make it happen. So I'm not a survival instructor. I'm an expert by no means at all. So you know what I mean? I'm just like you guys, but we can get it done. So I like it. It's not bad. I may make my own anyway, just because I like to have projects, but all in all, I like it. It works pretty good. So not a problem with the stove stand. It's good to go. Now, the other concern that I had was, it's not really a concern. It was just the little flipper tab, and I stuck a stick in it. I just left it on there. It's fine. Just lift it up when you need to, put it down when you don't. If you really want to, close the lid down. Good to go. So really impressed by the pot, really impressed by the bottle. The stove stand, it's fine. I don't have an issue with it. Now let's try the tea. I don't know if you guys can see this. It's like a slight, almost copper color to the tea. Still kind of hot. It's good. You know, I mentioned before that I like a lighter taste. I don't like things to be overwhelmed with like sugar and spices and things like that. So it's like a slight, it's a cross between mint and like pine needles in a way, but really, really just like a hint. I didn't put too much in there, so with a little bit of a spice, not much, just a little hint. So I like it. It's pretty good. Now I've noticed backpacking over the years, you know, Kool-Aid, Gatorade, anything like that when you've been hiking all day, anything other than water, when you sit down and you set up camp, I'm not going to call it a morale booster when you're backpacking, but maybe if it's in your go bag or whatever, you able to find this, it helps. It's better, you know, than just water. So anyway, I like it. It's pretty good. I like teas. You know, they say that, you know, the British drink tea and Americans drink coffee. Well, it must be the white European male in me. I don't know. I've always liked teas pretty good. I actually like cold coffee. So this is pretty good. I could have this in the morning, wake up out of a hammock or a tent or whatever, and have this and feel pretty good about life. So anyway, had fun doing this, guys. I really like this set, this cook set. It's, like I said, it's the most comprehensive thing I've come across so far. I don't have to build my own thing out of like different stuff. Sometimes you just want to buy something and have it done. Really impressed with it. So Dave Canterbury, you know what you're doing, man. We all know that. I really like it. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you're going to do anything different, please let me know. And the one thing that I do want to add is when I made the little trough in the dirt under this, that did help me because this is kind of low to the ground. But like I said, you could put a couple of rocks under here, maybe one in the back, maybe three. You do the same thing with some logs. A small fire like that is not gonna burn your logs out, and if it did, you could replace them. You know, you're in the woods. So anyway, big fan of this. I really like this because I don't have to do anything except for maybe scrape the ground off a little bit. Now that little shovel that I used, I will try to find a link and put it in the descriptions for you guys if you want to find that. It's cheap. The tip of mine's bent. My wife used it, and I don't know what she did to it, but she bent it. But it's fine. I bent it back with a pair of pliers. That's a good little thing to have. So this little kit that I got here, like I said, I'm glad I found a use for that little pouch because I can fit a lot of stuff in here. I could even put some food in the top portion of it. But I was able to add that GSI cup on top of all of this. And it's not necessarily nesting, if you want to call it that, but it just kind of rides on top in that pouch. And that's a good little thing to have, you know, extra with you. So I was able to use the ports in that lid of that pot and pour that in there and keep the stems out of my tea, so I don't have to spit wood out. But if I did, I don't really care, you know, not a big deal. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you watching, and I've got a list of things that I'm working on. One guy had a request for me to do a toiletries kit, you know, for backpacking and things like that. Buddy Goose, I'm working on it. I've got to get through my list. You know, I've got a plan. If I don't stick with my plan, I get kind of sidetracked. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Take it easy.